We're having a great time.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. We got a bunch of you in the waiting room already while Jimmy was getting pretty.
Yeah, look how pretty I am.
To join the show.
Work in progress.
Jimmy's excited. This is his last game before he's
I didn't know. Listen, I didn't know it was
tanking. Jimmy's tanking.
before his tank.
Sherrod's wearing his Sunday best. I don't know where he's coming from.
I was coming from the
job
game.
interview. Coming from a job interview or something?
The funeral of the Celtics
that we just witnessed. I wanted to see some of it up close.
Yeah.
To see if what I was seeing on TV was really happening.
Yeah. So Sherrod was down
just as bad in person.
Oh, so you went actually? I didn't know that.
I was there.
Oh, I didn't know you were there either.
Did you leave early?
Yes.
He beat the traffic.
That's great.
Me and the Celtics, we both left the game early.
Yeah, exactly. Sherrod was there. Josue is there. Celtics not only in danger of obviously at this point pretty much locked into the play-in situation, in danger of possibly finishing the season below 500, depending on how things go down the stretch here. I throw this score out and burn it. Okay, I'm so tired of these scores. I'm gonna just stop putting the score on these lower thirds because it's not indicative of the game. Celtics lost by a lot. Amit, make me one of those. Celtics.
It was a 20-point game.
Celtics outclassed by
Heat.
A little. Make me that. Ridiculous.
Make me a bicycle, clown.
Make me a bicycle.
Jimmy.
I can't. We're stuck. We're stuck in the same cycle here, right? Between are we angry or are we just
Day.
Absolutely?
I don't have to play in a play-in game. Can they just say we're just not going to play in a play-in game and let someone else play? Let Chicago get in that game or something.
Well, it feels like they're resigned to the fact that they're going there, so that probably explains the intensity of this game. But I just don't know how they go from this. This was a real good first quarter. The pace was nice. Fournier was going off. They were moving the ball, and then they just started fading, and it just never stopped. And then all of a sudden, they were down by 20. I just don't get how they're right in the game, and then it just fades and fades and fades, and they're gone.
It's always the same story with these guys. Defense. I mean, they don't defend with any sense of urgency for any more than maybe a quarter all game long. And it is the main reason why, more nights than not, they get their asses kicked. Because there's no resistance at all. And when they do put up some resistance and they're contesting shots, because teams have gotten in such a great rhythm, they're making the tough shots, they're making the open shots, they're making any and every shot that they want to take. And that is why the Celtics are where they are. And I'm curious, Bobby, what's your take? How are you feeling about the whole playing game now?
I'm in the same place.
Even better.
Again, the Heat
I'm certain they're going to win.
Yeah.
The Heat are
Bobby
clearly
still thinks
better
the Heat
than
are going to go – Celtics are going to go 2-0 in the series against the Heat.
Again, my whole point with that was that the echelon we're seeing them play against in a team like this that's showing that they're better than them is different from the Hornets, the Pacers, Wizards.
Bobby, we had a lot of text conversations where you're like, look at the Heat. They're not that good. Like, for real. Is there any question
Heat
watching
fans aren't panicking.
Is there any question watching these two teams play that one is not clearly the better team, not just a better team, plays a better brand of basketball? That's what kills me, is all of this talk. And again, a lot of it's going to come down on Brad again here, justifiably or not. But for whatever it is, all of this talk of Brad needs to yell more and needs to fire people up. Brad needs to come up with something that works on the court, and then the team needs to do it. Because the Heat have something that works on the court, and the Celtics do not, particularly on offense. I know we talk about defensive lapses, and that's always a huge issue here, but the offense that the Celtics run on a nightly basis is freaking gross. And no matter what they do,
I don't think the offense was the issue at all.
However long they're able to do it, they devolve into ISO type stuff. They played with pace early, they never maintain it, and they always go back to the stuff that kills them all season long. And it is what it is.
The offense is actually,
nice.
If you look at the numbers and what they're doing on offense, it's perfectly acceptable. It might not look great. It might not be getting the job done. But if they were bringing the defensive, even just an average defensive effort, they'd be fine.
Thank you, Amit.
Good job.
I mean, you look at the number, and I know it's very split along half lines, but especially in these second halves, they've been brilliant offensively. But the defense is just so disconnected.
You can't do that when they're running up late points. You can't look at numbers when they're running friggin' layup drills late in the game because the other team stopped giving a shit. Okay,
I know, but I'm just
stagnate when it matters. When the
overall.
pressure gets turned up, they don't get tough. They don't go to the basket enough. They settle for shots, and
It's the
then that's where
defense,
they end
though.
up.
It's not the offense. It's the defense. And I just think I can't explain it across the board. 3-point shooting, they're not getting out to shooters. This is going to be the worst 3-point defense since probably before 08. They're not protecting the basket. They're not keeping a guy like Bam off the offensive boards. They're not getting through screen action. They're not connected when guys are moving off the ball. And bringing in guys like Edwards, they did it again tonight. Experimenting off the bench doesn't help with that. But just overall, even with the starters, Tatum, bad defensive game. Thompson, awful defensive game.
Tatum, indifferent again.
Yeah.
Really indifferent on both ends of the floor. Didn't want to put the fight, didn't want to put the effort in on defense, and didn't want to be aggressive on offense. It was another one of those games on a night again when Jaylen is out. We talked about the gut check sort of game, and yes, I do think they came out and definitely got whatever the memo from Brad. Play fast. Don't let the Heat settle into their defense. Don't get caught there swinging the ball around and letting letting them do what they do. Don't let them get set up. And they did it early, and it worked a little bit. And then they get away from it again. And I thought Tatum again, not enough aggression, not putting up enough shots. When Jaylen's out, he's got to take it a little bit more on himself here to create, to be quick, to be a decision maker. Didn't happen. Fournier and Kemba are those guys right now, and not Tatum. And that's surprising to me.
This team, I've never seen a team like this before, where there's a clear and undeniable blueprint for how you should play.
And they don't do it.
And they look at it and they basically, give them
crumble it up.
We give them the 3-finger salute and say, we don't care about that.
No, they do it. They do it for a little bit. They watch it work, and then they're like, I'm all set. I'm going to do something else for the other 36 minutes.
Right.
I mean, is if there was ever like a basketball ED pill, this team would be a great case study trial group to test it on, because they clearly play great for a very small segment of time, blows your mind away, and then they get lent for a really long time.
That's a
long time.
Sherrod wants some of the juice.
Something. Because clearly they know how to play well. This is so different than some of the other teams that Brad has struggled with. Teams that weren't very good.
After.
This team, he's had teams that weren't very good, and he got great value out of them. The one thing that when I look at this team and I'm thinking more and more about what the hell went wrong with this group, I keep coming back to the fact that when you look at the amount of veteran brain power that has left this organization in the last 3 or 4 years, Marcus Morris, Al Horford, Gordon Hayward, the list goes on and on and on. And then you look at the guys that are filling those voids. Grant Williams, Robert Williams, Carson Edwards, Aaron Nesmith. While all those guys might be decent players at some point, they're not going to help you significantly now, and yet you're counting on them to do that.
Well, the Tristan thing has just been a complete failure at this point.
Absolutely.
He showed that sign out of his return from COVID, and he did play a great month or so after that on the defensive side of the floor. But in a series like this, and again, John said to start the show, I was fully confident in them taking this series, or at least splitting it like they needed to.
I thought they split it.
He was a big reason why. He played well against Bam in January. He's the guy you brought in here to bang with a guy like that, match up with him physically. And in both these games, the way Bam just slid by him to the offensive boards.
Like he wasn't even there.
Got to positions and made plays, made key shots against him.
Like he was playing against a child. Like it was easy. It was
like
almost
in the
like
playoffs last year.
Thompson's had some bad games. Tonight might have been his worst. He just had no impact on this game whatsoever. 104. Bam had a huge game against him. 4 fouls, no rebounds.
I can't put this one in the worst game for Tristan category because he's had so many. I can't distinguish between this one and frankly, a lot of games he's played this year.
Well, I just
bad.
Those Philly ones early in the year were horrible
too.
Those
are horrible.
When he gave up like 60 to Embiid in 2 games. brutal signing. I don't know how they're going to get off that, or if they're even in a position to. They don't have the center depth, and they probably don't want to lose it. I don't know how they make up for that if they end up losing them, and it's not an easy contract to move, even though there's only 1 year left. I don't even know what to say. Like, it didn't work. There's obviously not much ramp up toward the playoffs like he imagined there would be, or he said that this team would end up getting to.
Oh,
and
no.
that comment's going to come to define the year.
Brad did it early in
no.
the post game. Oh no, he did it.
What did he do?
We have to find the best version of this group that's available right now. It's been modified. It's been qualified. But it's still there.
Drink.
The
Everybody
best
drink.
version of this group.
Everybody drink.
So, in other
He
words,
said it.
if
The best
I've
version
got,
of
like,
what's left
a
over.
dumpster fire, we need to get the best version of this
The
dumpster
best
fire.
dumpster fire we
Well,
can
you hear what he
It's
said?
no dumpster fire.
You hear what he said
It's still
pregame?
not good.
Can't put lipstick on a pig, man.
You hear what he said
Pig.
pregame? He said, "We think we can be a nuisance."
Oh,
They're a
God,
nuisance.
that's
They're
sad.
a nuisance to
They
me.
are.
Absolutely a nuisance.
That's sad. That's something like
We might
That's
be able
just-
to bother the team for a quarter.
that's just such a loser quote.
Right.
You know?
It's like, let's
exactly.
make it hard
we might
for
make
them.
life hard on them a little, but we're gonna make
Yeah.
them earn this win. Like you just said, they're
We're a speed
gonna
bump.
win.
We're gonna be a speed bump.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh my
Shit.
god, that's too bad.
Oh man, I don't even know how it got to this because it's been shaky all year. But
That's
now
exactly it.
That's why.
It got to this a long time ago. There are people who are realizing it now or are in what we call denial for the last few
Right.
months. And there are many of them out there, especially the Celtics fans.
they're scrambling on Twitter right now
Oh,
to
yeah.
make sure they get their takes in before they're officially eliminated.
Get him in now. This
All
reminds
of
me
this
of the Kyrie
denial
season.
crew, yeah.
This reminds me
Right.
of the Kyrie season, which is perfect. Everyone was in denial on how disconnected this team was and how unhappy they were and how unhappy Kyrie Irving was until it was basically
But
him
what-
slapping you in the face and you realizing, whoa, this team might not be. this
Maybe
team
it's
might-
not working.
So what's the
We need to
story
make some
though? Because
changes.
the difference
When
between
did this
and-
happen?
the difference between this and 2019 still is that the expectations coming in were pretty low, and set by you guys especially. You guys came into the season saying this isn't a very good team.
5 seed at best is what I thought.
Yeah.
The biggest difference.
When they
though,
still
Bobby, between
underperformed.
Well, right. The biggest difference between this team and that one is that you knew one of the key elements that was without question a factor was Kyrie Irving. You knew that was one of the big reasons why they suck. This team, there are big fat nuggets everywhere. A little bit of Brad, a little bit of Danny, a little bit of players, a little bit of youth, a little bit of no fans, a little bit of health and safety
A
protocol.
whole lot of COVID, all of that stuff. Yep.
Yeah, there's so many reasons why this team has sucked this season that you can't put all your eggs in one significantly large basket and say this is the main reason why they're bad, which to me is really bad because it makes it so much harder to figure out how to fix this.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, if let's say if health and safety protocol is not an issue next season, does that mean you bring the band back and expect the results to be different?
Well, that goes back to the conversation we had last game, which is like, as I said, I mean, for the Jaylen news that came out yesterday, where I said it's a bit of a blessing because I do think it gives you, and I think the public perception around this team is going to be doomed season. The Jaylen was the capper on top of all of the other stuff, which was bad timed injuries throughout. Obviously, all of the COVID things, all of that stuff is real. All of it is real. There's no question about it. But it's still, you put that in one bucket and say, yeah, they dealt with a lot of shit. But in the other bucket is a team that showed up every night and you didn't know if they wanted to play or not.
Yeah,
and
you can list off
that's the problem.
And
that's
that
the
happened
problem.
nightly. That's a different bucket altogether. All of this stuff is real, but over here you had the guys who were here. Brad, look, making fun of Brad for the best version of what we have left quote. All he's basically saying is, guys, all we can do is with the players we have show up.
That's it.
And they too often all season long, they didn't do that and we would lean on, well, the media was mean to me and it's been a rough year.
So
I know that's stuff like that's going to happen throughout the course of it.
That's what I'm
you can't
asking.
lean on that. Yeah.
That's what I'm asking. So we come into the season and say this roster isn't very good. They just don't have a lot here to work with. But it feels like something even deeper than that happened, to the point that they're not even able to defend the 3-point line. Like in 2014, they had Gerald Wallace and
period.
They had Gerald Wallace and Phil Pressey and Rookie Smart, or not even Rookie Smart, playing in 2014, and they were able to scrap together a team that could at least defend the 3-point line at league average. So it's not about the talent. There's something deeper here that's gone on.
But look at it two ways, Bob, because we did talk about this, okay? Sure, all of the stuff that went wrong is one thing, but if you said at the beginning of the year, okay, to a Celtics fan, here's what's going to happen this year. Jaylen Brown's going to take his game to another level. Kemba Walker, despite his injuries, is going to be every bit as good as he was the year before. Rob Williams is going to make a massive leap to the point that he's one of your more valuable players and actually be starting and supplanting your other two centers. Peyton Pritchard, a guy picked at the bottom of the draft, would actually make a real solid impact and help you run your second unit offense. And by the end of the year, Aaron Nesmith will be giving you valuable minutes as a guy you could bring off the bench. If someone told you all those things would happen to this Celtics team, you'd be like, shit, we could be a 2 seed or a 1 seed if all of those things break. You would. So for all the bad stuff, there's quite a few things that went in the positive direction for this team. And you would require Evan Fournier, and he would be Gordon Hayward-like for this team, and a really good fit. You make a good deadline acquisition. All of those things going in your favor, and you're 35 and 34? Like, give me a break.
Falling apart. And so
it's ridiculous. It's inexcusable. You can take all of the excuses, throw them out, and say quite a few things actually click like towards the positive direction for this team.
The one thing you can say to that is that none of it happened at the same time. Like, one thing would happen, it would exit. Of course not. The timing one would happen, it would exit. Yeah. Like none of those things happen together. But even when you have a night like tonight, Fournier, outstanding. Kemba, great game. It doesn't connect to their teammates. It doesn't extend down the roster. It just kind of happens in a vacuum, and the team doesn't reap any benefits from it. Like, that's the weirdest thing about this team to me, is that so many different individual things can go right, and none of it can lift the team up on a given night, because there's just separate pieces doing nothing. And Aaron Nesmith's really the one tonight, running up and down the floor for 14, 15 minutes before they finally get him a look. Inexplicable.
You played Carson Edwards and Aaron Nesmith tonight, whose only value is out there to shoot, to create space, to shoot. And sure, that doesn't mean Nesmith's going to run around and play some defense too. And the first stint, 8 minutes, I tweeted about it, 0 friggin' field goal attempts. Carson Edwards plays 6, 0 field goal attempts. What do they each have? They have 3 total for the game. What are you doing 4 with those? Yeah. Sure, Brad wants to roll the dice, play those guys, then use them correctly. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of players that are having individually good games or performances, and they've improved individually, but they haven't improved clearly as a team. And a lot of it does have to do with the defense. They're not stringing together games where they're putting in that effort, It's, for lack of a better word, it comes down to
there
effort.
Goes John.
A lot of times on defense, he'll be back. And I don't know if these guys are starting to feel entitled or what it is, but
are they starting to feel hopeless? Is that what it is?
Well, yeah, now they are, sure, but it hasn't been like that all season. They created this hopeless situation by the way that they played all season. The teams from years past that you mentioned, Bobby, those players were playing for respect, for the next contract, to grind out wins. They were playing because nobody expected them to win, and now it almost feels like these guys, I don't even know if they expect themselves to win. Like, they're not really playing for any purpose.
I think the purpose of what they're playing for is, let's just get better and let the results be what they are, which is very different than let's play to win. Let's play to have a sense of urgency. Let's play so that we won't get our asses kicked tonight. And that's the thing that bothers me about this team so much. They seem to care more about let's just try to win than they care about I hate to lose. These guys don't hate losing. They don't like to lose, but they don't hate it. Because if they did, they will play with a greater sense of urgency and desire to do everything they can to not let that happen. That, to me, is the biggest difference between this team and the ones we've seen under Brad Stevens before. Those guys hated losing. And when it happened, they were not happy about it. They were pissed. And does that mean that they're screaming at the top of their lungs? No. What it means is they're doing everything in their damn power to give themselves a chance to not lose. That is not happening. Hasn't happened all season. It's not going to happen in a playing game. And then you got to ask yourself, is it going to be any different if we bring most of the band back? I think Danny Ainge has to take a really long, hard look at the back end of that bench and realize he's got a lot of guys in their second, third year who aren't playing. And if they're not playing at this point, they're probably not going to be playing next year. And if they're not going to play, why are they around?
So, and the excuse thing, there were so many excuses thrown around throughout the course of this year. I don't think any of them were glaring enough to get to a point where you can't even compete in any single game. Like,
and that's
even
the problem. They don't compete.
2 starters down. And we've seen situations like this throughout the years. We can go back and make a whole list of adverse things that hit this team, especially in 2018. The second Hayward went down on opening night that night, if they just floundered and ended up being the 7th seed and having a season like this, we would have just looked at it and said, oh, Hayward went down, But they didn't. Guys off the bench stepped up. They connected to one another. They played great defense, and they went on a huge run in spite of what happened.
You know what,
and they lost
Bobby, that team was led by veterans, and those back-end guys were Tatum and Brown. So you had guys who were young.
Yeah, and I'm not
that opportunity.
I'm not asking for an Eastern Conference Finals run. I'm asking to stay in a game for 4 quarters. Maybe lose, but stay in a game. We're not asking for much at all. Yeah. It's unreal.
Look.
It's
Bobby,
like this team just shut down anytime adversity struck.
It's their identity. It's just ingrained in their DNA this season. This is why this season cannot end soon enough. This is why for I think months I've been saying that this team has no heartbeat to them. Yeah. And I never expected a playoff run. Yeah. I never expected anything, and that's why I'm not confident in a play-in game. Yeah, they might have the better team on paper, but why the hell would anybody be confident that they're going to just survive the play-in game? This team was built currently to lose a play-in game. Really, if we're being honest.
If you're playing a team like Charlotte, who's got a guy by the name of Terry Rozier, Terry knows exactly.
He smells blood.
He knows this team is so just ripe to get run out the gym. Mm-hmm. And that is why, one of the reasons why I expect Charlotte to win that game, because they have intel on why this team is the way they're built. I'm telling you.
He plays with edge, man.
Right. I mean, the lack of veteran leadership on the back end. Tatum and Brown, they can be your face of the franchise guys, but you need guys who've been in some battles who can actually still contribute. You don't need Tristan Thompson to be 2017, 18 Tristan, but damn, this guy that we see now, he's not helping you unless you're trying to get into the lottery.
How bad is his touch?
Look, how many times have I said this? Don't pass to him. He can't either handle it or he can't convert because he's too slow and he gets swallowed. You cannot give him the ball down low.
What a horrible fit he was with this team. It's unreal.
Yeah, and this is going to drive us crazy, but the Rob absence being what it is obviously crippling, and I'm going to bring up a debate I threw out there earlier just to get your take on it and get yelled at, and I don't care about it because I am curious your thoughts. But the more this goes on with Rob out and Tristan looking the way he does, the more I can't believe just to save a cajillionaire a couple of bucks, we just gave away Daniel Tice for nothing. Come on. You want to talk about something that's crippling your team right now? Daniel Tice isn't the savior, but this is a disgrace. Disgrace for all of the Cornette stuff. Okay, yeah, he's done some decent things, and I think he's good for what he is for a few minutes a game. But the fact that Brad won't go to him once, and he's bringing in Grant in these situations against guys like Bam, this is terrible. What do you think? Daniel Tice today might have been a difference maker in this game, in both of ththese games. He could be the reason you wouldn't be in a play-in right now. It's absolutely inexcusable you gave that guy away because you wanted to save a couple of bucks.
There were other ways to do it. I think the reason they did that, and it goes back to what you were screaming about for a month, is Rob. You wanted to empower Rob. You wanted him to
I don't think that's why they did it. They did it to save money.
Yeah, but there are other ways to save money.
It's for both.
Yeah, they could have traded Semi, Grant,
Who's that guy? You guys
trade
wonder?
like 3 guys all over the league.
Right. And Bobby, I mean, we just saw a
Who's
guy
piped
that
for
they could have
those?
picked up for nothing in Dwayne Dedman, who would have been.
I noticed him a
help him.
lot this series. He looked good.
Yep.
He didn't sign with them until damn near last
Yeah,
month.
no,
He was just
big.
him and
was
Trevor Ariza
crazy.
sitting back,
Yeah.
chilling, waiting for the phone to ring. Anyone need a center who can shoot a little bit, defend, rebound? I'm here. Anyone need a wing?
But that was the
Says
last
Trevor
thing we
Ariza?
wanted, right? Everyone was mad about the 3 center thing, right?
Josue,
Yeah.
That's the
I don't
last
think
thing
we can go
Should we
back.
get Max in
You're
here,
right,
and he can
but
tell us how they.
I don't think we can go
Sellinger?
back over the Tice thing.
Well, Josue, give us your view. Give us your viewpoint. Josue joining us from the Garden. Give us your view. Sherrod was there too, but what's your vibe from being? What's your vibe for being there?
Well,
on the
I
game
just thought,
itself.
Honestly, it cracked me up how quickly these fans turned on the Celtics, and I don't mean it as
More
like
booze.
yeah. Well, no, it wasn't even booze, Bobby. They were getting creative, man. It was faint. It wasn't really loud, and since my voice resonates around here, I'm gonna say it a little softly, but Fire Bread was a solid 10 seconds. Sherrod, you heard that towards the end of the fourth quarter.
I was in my car and back.
Oh, you dipped that then, right? Oh, okay,
I did like the Celtics.
It would have been louder, but half the fans left, I think, too.
It's so funny because it went from like 3 minutes before that, where the whole the taco, fan appreciation day. You expected that, especially the taco special, if you will. But they completely were like, you know what? No, screw taco. Let's start talking about Brad. And yeah, man, that was a little strong. But obviously, I don't think it made the airways, right? You guys didn't hear it, but that was
No.
where I think it was about a 10-point game at that point. Like 50 seconds left. One of those timeouts, it got pretty strong.
Wow.
That is crazy. I didn't hear that in the game, nor did anybody mention it.
No, and then at the free throw line, like, listen, guys can hear that stuff now. like it's pretty. Yeah,
because when you have awkward. That few people, you hear like
exactly
every
it echoes.
One guy screams, "Brad sucks,"
and you picked the right time to do it. Exactly.
Hey, buddy.
Right dribble. Hey, fire Brad Ked. Everyone can hear that. Like people on the court can hear that. My man sitting in like the 10th row. Like, of course he heard that. So yeah. Entertaining crowd from the Garden.
We've talked about the excuses and the stuff like media members have said this year. The fans haven't held back since the earliest weeks, and I think they've gone crazy at times. But once this team really went down the tube, to be booed in the halftime the way they were numerous times.
We just lose Bobby.
Is that me? Okay, good. I thought it was
just
me.
Bobby. Just
his mouth is moving.
It just cut off. Yeah, that usually doesn't happen.
You're gone, Bobby.
Look at his face. He's so disappointed.
No, you either unplugged something or you gotta leave and come back.
Oh, well, because he could hear us.
Deuces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's interesting. It's like what I said at the end of the last show when we were wrapping things up. Me, Bobby, and Jimmy. Like when have these players defended Brad in the like just like the hey, Brad's not that bad, by the way, guys. Like in that sense, like I just we
That's not
haven't
gonna
seen
happen.
Well, let me ask you a question
now. Right,
how many times has it been asked?
A bunch. By us?
No, by
all
the
season?
media.
Oh, okay.
How many times have questions been specifically targeted to the players responding to Brad? I haven't heard a lot of them.
In the first half of the season, I heard it more often. But the guys are always saying, "Oh, it's on us. It's on us." That's always the tagline. We have to figure it out. We. But I just, again, I'm surprised.
Is that
I'm surprised. Yeah, right. I'm surprised. Not one.
Nice.
Hey, we got the right guy in charge here. I just that still worries me. I mean, to Sherrod's point, we're not going to hear it now, but it's something to mention.
I know, and again, it goes back. What I've always my vibe on the Brad stuff is not full blown mutiny. It's not I hate this guy, but it's looking around, kind of wondering.
It's like,
is he going to fix it?
Yeah,
like
almost like
that's how they play.
I'll take it. Give it.
Everyone's waiting for someone else to step up. That's kind of a problem with the team. I think both on the court and both in terms of maybe looking at Brad and like, hey. Kind of wondering if you're going to tell Marcus not to shoot 10. I brought it up. Like, maybe tell Marcus not to shoot 10 threes, and again, it's speculative, but that's the vibe I get. I don't think they dislike Brad. I just think they're thinking like, so do that coaching thing, you know?
Yeah. And that's
You know,
concern.
do the thing that fixes it, you know?
That's
'Cause
supposed to make us better, right?
Right.
Isn't that how it goes?
It's like
like
poking
if you
with
go
a
to a
stick.
doctor, you don't know how to be a doctor. You're just like, fix me, like make it better, you know?
Yeah.
That's
Where's my
concerning.
script?
Tell me what to take and I'll do it.
Right, just give me the good stuff and let's do this, you know?
But here's the question, guys. Though, is this for good though? Like, I don't know if this is just a seasonal thing. It could easily be a seasonal thing. You come back next, off season training camp. All of a sudden, everyone has a different attitude. I mean,
no.
But again, we don't know what the roster's going to be like though.
Some of the stuff we saw in the East Finals last year, some of it we've seen in seasons past. Again, I don't think those were as glaring as the issues we've seen this year, but it does reflect some of the weaknesses of Stevens, some of the weaknesses of Tatum and Brown leading this team, especially Tatum back in the East Finals, and the weaknesses of Ainge that we've seen. Now, again, I don't think Ainge ended up having as bad of a year as he started off having. I think he made key adjustments and did what he had to do in season. But will he take the next steps now and make some adjustments here? What you just mentioned there, this kind of just passive, we're not actually going after Brad. We're not actually adjusting what we need to do individually. If everyone just kind of looks at the situation here and just says, oh, run it back on the next year, I don't see how much changes. Like if everybody just kind of feels like, oh, we can just do a better job doing the same thing next year, how does that go anywhere? You might be healthier, but you're not going to be much better.
They got to get some veterans on that damn bench, man. I mean, and it can't just be one or two. I think they need at least 3 or 4 because, again, you've got guys who've been on that bench for multiple years who have not played multiple years, who show no signs of getting good enough to
I don't know
help
Tristan's
you
going anywhere, Sherrod, so I guess you can.
He's a veteran. I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about the Grant. I'm talking about the Grants, the Tacos, the Traymonds, those guys that are on your roster who aren't getting any better.
This is so interesting, Sherrod.
They need to compile the progress reports, right, Sherrod? Like everyone's got to sort of really divvy them up and see who's really making progress.
Those guys, they're all great guys, but they're not helping you win.
No.
I remember Perk talked about this probably last year. He was saying that, oh, this league's going young. Teams are going with younger guys rather than veterans, and just kind of came off as like, oh, Perk just wants to still be in the league thing. But it's true. These veterans are more expensive. So a team like the Celtics can look at it and say, oh, we're up against the tax. We're really struggling money-wise. Should we invest in this team? And they want to go young. They're probably going to add another rookie in this draft instead of doing what you want them to do.
That's modern day NBA roster building at this point. You pay up for your stars. You do not overpay for the middle class. You fill it up with some rookies, and then you grab a bunch of guys who've made their money already and want to jump onto a winner and are going to take a deal. That's it. That's the roster. That's like what the Lakers do. That's what you do,
Well, they already did that. So that's
I think it was the new TV deal sort of spiked everything up, right? I mean, Evan Turner, I mean, no disrespect to Evan, but I mean, he was kind of like, you know what? I think I'm good. I think I made enough money,
Evan is the poster child for don't do
space.
that. The deal he signed when he left the Celtics, he's literally the poster child for what not to do when you're building a team.
Overpay
don't give a guy like Evan Turner $20 million. Like that's going to kill your team and your cap. Even though Evan Turner's a good guy and a valuable guy, you got to pay those guys mid-levels and veteran minimums and this and that, and you fill your roster with those guys, young people, and then your superstars, and that's all you got, And so the middle class gets squeezed.
Yeah, but then we talked about this before the trade deadline and waiver wire season and all that about these low cost, high reward guys. So Brad's just giving up on Jabari at this point. Like I know he's not guaranteed to give you 20 every night, but I'm still surprised we're not seeing him out there.
What's Danny thinking with that too? Like I got you this guy.
It's like the toy. It's like the toy your kid stops playing with after a week. He's like, you still playing with this toy?
We want him to be a small ball big. You're down a big right now, and you're not using him. And again, we know he'd get killed defensively and stuff, but if Danny, you're thinking like, I kind of got this guy for a reason, So I don't know.
They used him over the weekend too. They used Taco over the weekend. They used Cornette over the weekend. They get away from them there. They used Shemi at one point. They used Langford at one point.
2 minutes tonight, yeah.
And so then these guys just go right back to the bond. So it's just a continuous guessing game with the rotation. Where are you with Parker now, Sherrod? That is an interesting one.
Real quick, I've had this graphic up for a bit. Just to remind everybody, locker room's happening. It's a locker room sort of game. Join us. because I feel like we've heard ourselves say the same things over and over again. We want to hear from you guys. We might wrap this up a little bit early tonight and head over there and
let you guys again tomorrow.
Let you guys get your pound of flesh. So go ahead, Bobby. You were asking Sherrod.
They went wild Sunday.
Yeah.
Parker, it felt like this wasn't a move to just fill a roster spot or replace Mo. When they signed him, they said, we want to build something here. We signed him 2 years. We want him to become part of this program. Like John just said, small ball, big, all that stuff, the plan they had for him. Is there a plan?
I think the plan is to see what can happen with him with a training camp under his belt and then go from there, because at that point, it's a low-cost, high-reward potential deal. Right now, he's not giving you anything because he can't get on the floor. And when he has got on the floor, his defensive deficiencies, I think, are now outweighing the offensive lift that he can give you.
Yeah, probably.
Because you look at the numbers, because you look at the numbers that they're putting up offensively of late, getting buckets is not the problem. They can't get anybody to stop anyone. And Jabari will only exacerbate. He only makes that worse when he's on the floor.
I hate to say it, Sherrod. This might just be your apology cam moment. I don't know.
He was big. Yeah,
I don't think
you were big on Parker.
I don't think he's feeling
a 2-year deal. Absolutely, a 2-year deal.
I'm not coming off of
Sherrod, this is a veteran move, by the way. I know you're new-ish to the Garden Report. It's a veteran move to kick that apology cam down the road, okay?
If they signed him to a 1-year deal, I absolutely would have to apologize because he's been trash if we're talking about just this year. But there's a reason why of all those guys that they were bringing in, all the new guys, only one of them got a 2-year deal. There's a reason why. Because they're looking down the road. They're not focused on what he's going to do in the moment.
They want to see him. They want to see what they can turn him into, I think, over the offseason.
Yes. And they've had so much success kind of just repackaging and refurbishing guys who are kind of kicked to the curb. I mean, hell, they got one on their bench, Evan Turner. They were able to refurbish him, and he got a damn, 4-year, $72 million deal? Something ridiculous like that?
Yeah, I'm going to predict it right now.
I'll write this one down for 2022.
It was so good.
We'll revisit it.
I'm going to predict. I want a prediction. In like August, we're going to get like an Instagram highlight reel of like Jabari Parker's summer off season, and everyone's going to be very fired up and like, wow,
you're going to be the one to pull up that YouTube
clip. He could be a real part of this rotation. Like to start the year, it's going to be huge because Jaylen Brown might not be ready to go, and that's what's going to happen. Just be ready for it.
Also,
I liked it better than Mo. That's all I'm really expecting.
That's going to happen after Fournier gets the bag.
Yeah.
He's going to get paid.
Oh, yeah, Bobby's backing up the Brinks truck.
A secret everybody else has been in on except for Bobby is we made the apology cam only for Bobby.
Jimmy took one.
I've
don't
used
forget.
it a couple times.
And he spent the whole year asking for us to do it. He didn't realize that was never the design.
The way Kemba Walker.
Secret is out.
Who did we not mention tonight? John's got the controls, so we don't even mention 36, 7, and 4.
Yeah,
what's your point?
Kemba graphic? You don't have
Kemba was awesome.
Kemba,
what a waste.
That should be the graphic. No stats. Just
perfect. Awesome. They couldn't have handled the Kemba situation any better, and it's not going to matter. That's just
It's all to waste.
Well, it might matter, for
that is a bummer.
Seasons.
Actually, can you?
He
imagine?
is hitting his peak. He's scoring 30, 40 points a game,
and he's taking charge at times too.
Where it's like,
where they need a guy. No. But I mean, when they need a guy, it's like what Tatum had another passive game, and Kemba's like, "Fine, step aside, I got it." And
he's been doing it for about a month now.
Yeah.
I've been very impressed by Kemba.
So
attacking.
That's what I like about Fournier. Fournier was aggressive, looking for a shot, and
decisive and aggressive. Yep.
Yeah, it's like it's about damn time. I know you're feeling better, and that's great, but you got to keep this going. And when you get those type of efforts offensively, you need role players who can defend. You need guys who can play that specific role because you've got guys who can get buckets. That's not an issue. They shot like 52% as a team tonight. So it's not like you're a crappy shooting team. You're just a crappy defensive team.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem.
And to be fair, also, the Heat knocked down everything, contested and uncontested.
Yeah.
They did a bad job getting out on them at points. Heat capitalized on almost every single mistake that you make. when you miss a rotation or you're slow to get back, and they're good at that. But they hit some ridiculous ones as well. This was a classic make-miss league sort of game. Except the Celtics also, as you said, made their shots as well. The Heat were just freaking unconscious.
You know who
Ridiculous.
hated?
That was insane.
You know who hated watching this series more than Celtics fans? Bucks fans. The fact that they're lining up against the Heat again, they're just like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
Right as the Heat get on fire. The Heat are the best NBA. The Heat are the best offense in the NBA the last 6-7 games or so. That's a scary thought for Milwaukee.
It's almost the version of what they did last year, but it's just before the playoffs this time, right around the corner. And they did it without Jimmy Butler in the second half. Like that's insane.
Is Milwaukee locked into the 3?
They might have a slight
Brooklyn.
chance to move up, but it feels like that's where they're gonna land.
Yeah. Brooklyn might be without Kyrie too.
Yeah, he got hit in the face tonight.
Bucks are a game and a half back of Brooklyn.
Yeah, one in the loss column. I was looking at it.
He never returned he never came back in the game, right?
The Kyrie Mask might come back.
Yeah, he's gonna bring it back.
That was sick.
Anyway, I'll throw this out there, because why not? And get your
words.
No, I'm just glad Bobby said that, because I hope these Celtics fans know that like this team is like legit and more than legit. Like the Miami Heat they're for real. I mean,
oh my God,
this is a ridiculous team. I mean, yeah, the Celtics did give up a whole lot of open threes, but it almost didn't matter at that point. I don't know.
This is the ball movement, the defense, the contributions off the bench. I mean, the Miami, they're giving you everything right now,
and they're taking every game like a playoff game right now. Like,
well,
you gotta respect it.
They're doing what the Celtics thought they could do by just saying it instead of actually.
Well, not just that, Jimmy, right? They thought that they would be at full strength at this point, right? And unfortunately, that's not the case. I feel like Miami's sort of like, okay, we got this now.
Even when they were at full strength, I never got the impression that they were rounding into form.
How can you be as bad as Tristan and say something like we're playing for something bigger?
It's going to define the season. We listened to that right when it happened, and we were just
it's the LeBron factor, false confidence having played with LeBron. It's like J.R. Smith. Like he has all the confidence in the world, doesn't realize that LeBron's been following him around,
like a LeBron line.
saving his life everywhere he goes. He has no idea.
Yeah.
Like
he just has like a bunch of LeBron lines in his head that he just sits on.
Yeah.
when shit goes down, we're playing for something bigger.
So yeah,
that'll be the quote of the season. When the Celtics make their own montage, they've made so many montages lately. They'll have to throw that one in there with like the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme.
Was that another Tatum IG montage about like facing adversity or something? What was it the other day?
I don't know.
Probably, yeah. He had some Gatorade sponsored team interview.
Okay.
Like there wasn't Gatorade sponsored. But I saw that last time. And it was about
like the silhouette
the
and
naysayers.
shutting down the naysayers.
And the other thing. It's like they've got a lot of time to put these videos together. I'll tell
it's
you
funny
that.
you mentioned it too. I think I watched half of it. And I just started.
Oh my god, it was like
else.
2 minutes. I
started doing something else. I was like, all right.
Enough. It's just enough of this stuff.
Yeah, I never got that all season.
Has a 7th seeded team that it right now is a coin flip to lose in the play-in ever felt more disrespected? Like, you're a freaking 7th seed. You're a 500 team.
Spot the lie in anything that's been said.
Seriously.
Spot the lie.
Like there
Instead
isn't.
Of save all your time and money on these videos and just spot the lie.
I got a production
and that's
house.
Why
you could pick any episode.
That connects to all the excuses they've made.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's not us, it's the refs. It's not us, it's the injuries. It's COVID. It's all these things.
That's why they're mad, though, guys.
Yeah,
right? They're mad because it's true.
Well,
that's rough.
Be mad. Be mad all the way to the off season.
Yeah,
they weren't. Tell you what, I don't see them mad at the right things. That's the one thing I'll say.
And that's the problem.
Like themselves and each other.
Like themselves. That's, I mean,
like losing the game.
What's that?
Like losing a game. Instead of being mad at like what people are saying about it, how about you just be mad that you lost the game?
Well, be mad at the way you played when you lost the game. How about being mad at the way you played? How about figuring out how to defend better? How about keeping the man that's busting your ass out there in front of you for a change? Be mad about that.
Yeah. Especially Smart. And you don't want to make it about Smart because it's not all his fault. But you would think he would be the one guy to ramp it up, inspire others, do something crazy in his own sense to power them back into some of these games, or at least set a tone early. And even if we're going to look at him as the guy who's the centerpiece of the defense, as he has been for so many years, I just don't think you can let it fly that he's been part of such a poor defense this year. Now, there were stretches earlier in the year where they played solid defense under him, but I don't think he raised the ceiling of the group all that much.
Let me ask Joe Swain, Sherrod, because you were there. I think Gorman or Scal, I was watching the NBC broadcast for a little bit and then flipped over to TNT, but in the beginning they were saying Marcus wasn't moving well at all in pregame, and then just stopped talking about it. And they didn't elaborate how, and they just said he looked rough, but they didn't talk about it at all. I don't know if anybody saw anything there.
I thought early on he actually looked pretty good. He made some pretty good hustle plays, I thought, early on, that unfortunately for the Celtics, that's kind of where the plays ended. Yeah. It wasn't like it led to other guys making hustle plays and doing the kind of things that we've seen happen in past years.
Fournier was everywhere. Like, he was literally everywhere. Like,
but that was like a quarter and a half. That was like the first quarter and a little bit of the second, and then it was done.
It's like he took Marcus's role in doing that, and Marcus was doing his thing, but between him and Kemba, I don't want to say sort of ball dominant, but it was ending in their hands. They were doing a really good job of swinging the ball around, but there was most of the time, I mean, they both had a dozen points in that first half. So in the opening stretch, I felt like Smart was just.
No, I'm just saying physically. I mean,
I know what you mean. Like,
he came out, he scored the first 5 points. He made a couple of, you said, hustle defensive plays. Really good steal in the lane on a recovery. So he did a couple things, but they were just saying he looked really off.
I noticed that against the Spurs.
He looked really off, and I don't know if you saw anything. That's all.
There was a moment against the Spurs a week and a half ago where he, his legs just gave out under him, and he wasn't moving well that whole game. He wasn't getting on the ball, but then
he's picking his spots. He's got some juice, but he's not. Maybe something's holding him back.
I don't think we're gonna find out in a week that he has a major injury and he's going down. But there's something nagging there that seems to be bothering him. Probably.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprising.
Fournier, though, you mentioned Fournier. How is this going to impact him? He's going out there balling. He's doing everything he needs to do. Oh, I mean, come on, he's shooting 66% the last 5-6 games.
Lock him in.
He's doing everything. Anything he wants. Well, this is my question. Is he going to look at the situation and say, wow, this place is awful. I got to get out of here.
No,
he's going back to Orlando.
I think he's looking at it as I can shine here.
He's going to go wherever the money's at. Yeah. If the Celtics say we'll bring you back for 20, and let's say the Nuggets or some other team says we'll sign you for 25, guess what he's going to do? Bye-bye.
Well, that's an advantage.
Michael Porter Jr. is going to be like, really?
Yeah.
It is an advantage. They can do what they want. There's not a lot of teams that are going to – Evan Fournier is a luxury item, I don't know.
That's messed up, man. He's like, yo, Fournier is Central AC, guys. He's not the main.
Right now,
it's a luxury. You don't have to get it.
Well, that's good. It felt like they'd be able to keep him at.
He's the guy you don't necessarily want to throw $20 million at unless you have to. If you're the Celtics, because you can't replace him, you don't want to lose the asset. There's really nothing else coming down the pipeline. So the Celtics kind of have to pay him.
I was going to say, you don't think they have to? I think they do.
Well, yeah, they're not going to get They're not going to get any benefits from the way they played. He's not going to look at the situation and say, "Oh, I'll take the same money here I could get elsewhere," because it's such a great situation. It's a terrible situation right now to be in.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how many offers he gets. I mean, I think I saw a ranking a free agency ranking of players, and he was like 21 on the list.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's what I mean. Is like guys like him who command decent money but aren't the top of the market. It's a lot of money to throw at that type of player. It's a lot.
It is, and it's almost the type of signing that like a bad team would make.
That's what I mean. It's like we struck out on it's a Knicks signing.
Exactly. It's like we got to fill roster space somehow.
Give me a throwback comp, John. You're good with these. Give me a comp.
I can't think of one off the top.
This is like paying.
No, but Sherrod, I mean, like Evan Turner, I think is a great comp.
I feel like the Pistons did this with a bunch of players over the years. Like they did
that with Ben Gordon.
Yes. And then
Ben Gordon.
He was
good
out there
player.
The last 2 years of that contract. He was done. It was
Or even
He's got some Ben Gordon.
They just had Villanueva in there.
They just had a lot of slightly above average guys, or I'm not calling Evan Fournier slightly above average, but you know what I'm saying, like non-star guys that they were paying.
Though.
It's a Nicholas Batum contract. How about that? Or a Joakim Noah. That's another one.
Well, the
Oh,
years will be
a
interesting
Noah
for
guy.
sure.
A Luol Deng is
Yeah.
another one. You know,
That'll
like
be
that.
interesting. That's
Yeah,
a good
yeah,
point,
yeah.
Bobby.
Those type of guys. You
Exactly,
know,
that level.
There'll be
that's
a
exactly right.
there'll be a balance here, and I guess the most you could give him is 5 years since they're the bird team, but they're not going to max him, so it'll probably be 4. There's a balance here between them wanting to have all their cap space open one off season and still retain a good team now, because this is why I say pay him whatever, keep him at all costs, because if they lose him and there's no replacement there, they could get a TP or whatever, but who cares at that point? They're in a really bad spot again. They're replacing him with a rookie. They're undermanned. Any injury is going to kill them again next year. And all of a sudden, whatever you want to add in 2-3 summers from now, you don't even have a team at that point to appeal to a free agent. So
Right.
you're walking a line there between, all right, we can retain what we have, but we won't have the flexibility to sign Bradley Beal and whatever as a free agent. But at the same time, if you lose Fournier now and just collapse as a destination, you're not going to get that anyway. So it's a tough line that they're walking when it comes to that contract negotiation. That's why you hated that they signed an expiring contract, John. But what else was out there?
I mean, like I said, Gordon +1 was the safer play, and also Harrison Barnes, who wasn't gettable. Those were the appealing ones. Whatever it was, they couldn't get those done. So be it. But those guys +1 gave you much more flexibility to play around because you knew you had them coming back, and you could consider trading them. You know, if you wanted to as well. Where Fournier is, you got to back up the Brinks truck there.
Or you could have kept the whole TP.
Yeah,
which would have been risky, but
what
more
is
flexibility.
interesting is what Bobby's realization is. Now, Bobby wants to keep Fournier. However, now Bobby has finally come around.
They can't give him 5 years?
Nope. On who, Bobby, that you no longer think is part of the Celtics' future plans?
Is it Thompson?
No.
Well, if they had a choice.
That was a really good guess.
It's not.
It's not Cornette.
Smart.
Yes. Bobby has turned on Marcus Bartholomew.
Well,
Smart. I don't know if that's his middle name.
So you weren't here on Sunday, John.
Probably not.
I just felt the way I was saying it.
I was like, is that his middle name?
Called for a middle name.
Marcus Bart.
I didn't even notice until everyone started laughing. It just went right by, yeah.
Bartholomew.
It's Osmond.
Bart Smart.
One Marcus Bartholomew Smart.
That'd be pretty good.
It's like when your mom's really mad at you.
Yeah, exactly.
Marcus Bartholomew, you better.
It was just dramatic effect.
No, they're coming up against a signing of Fournier here, a signing of Smart, as well as another guy like Rob possibly that they might have to extend here, sign the next offseason if they want to keep him around. Eventually, you have to pick and choose here and not lose a guy for nothing. And this is why at the deadline I said they should think long and hard about finding a enviable return for him there. I didn't love Gordon, but it was a good idea. My idea was John Collins at the time because you could re-sign him if you traded for him at that time. This summer, you can't do a sign and trade with Smart because you're hard capped. Even if you bring in a Ball, even if you bring in a Collins on a sign and trade, you hard cap yourself when you send out Smart in a sign and trade, and Smart only makes 16 versus those guys making like 24, 26. So you can't do it this offseason. So that makes it harder to move him now. His expiring contract makes it harder to move him now. But at the same time, can you keep Smart? Can you keep Fournier? Can you keep Rob on the same roster coming in next year as this roster gets more and more expensive?
If you re-sign everybody, extend Rob, re-sign Smart, it's the most expensive non-contending team in the history of the NBA, you know? And that's what's scary is you talk about Wick is getting squeamish, hanging on to Daniel Tice, and like
Fred's going to need a new contract soon.
You're talking about kaboom, big bucks, for a team that you're not certain is really cracking the top.
That pregame interview Wick did, man, I swear, Wick's going through it, man.
Wait, what happened?
Oh yeah, you weren't there for that. He did a pregame
I didn't
interview.
see that either. You were the only one who saw that, Joe Sway.
Yeah, it was the extended pregame live, and they're asking everyone Tommy questions, and of course it's Wick. So after the Tommy questions are done, he's like, "So how you feel about this?" Obviously, this is before Jaylen news dropped, but he was like, "How do you feel about this team?" And it's been a tough season, but how's everything going to finish? Like, how are you feeling about their chances against the Heat? He's like, we have good players, and like just the way he was coming. I gotta pull up that link, man. I gotta send it to you guys. But I was just like, he's not believing what he's saying. Like, I don't think he's believing what he's saying. And then he would go right into like another Tommy story. It's like he didn't want to talk about it at all.
Yeah. The question is, do you want to sign Smart to another contract after next season?
For the right money, of course.
For the right money, right?
Yeah, that's the whole point.
But also, guys,
if the narrative is Smart is like he's a $20 million guy, which I've always thought was ludicrous, then no. But if Smart, to me, Smart is the classic. You do what you did last time. If you think there's a better deal out there, Marcus, by all means, go get it. Otherwise, if you want to hang out here, I got this much money for you. And if he comes back for it, great, because he is a valuable player and someone you absolutely have spots for on your roster, and he makes you better. But you don't back up the Brinks truck for him. No.
And the other thing I said was, it's kind of a tough sell, and it's a tough trade-off to go from Smart to Fournier. Like, I feel like you definitely lose.
I disagree with that.
Well, no, we talked about this last episode. We gotta wait. The Celtics should wait to Nesmith comes through, right?
That's another thing.
I'm not joking. I mean, I'm serious. He could.
No, it's a real point.
Yeah, realistically, in a few years, he's supposed to take on that role, right?
Can Nesmith start to do some of the things that Smart does at a much cheaper price there?
End up
he's
trading.
a better shooter.
He's a better shooter,
think so, John.
I don't think he's that
He's a better
guy.
shooter. He's not all defense.
I think he's not. I think he lacks the overall instincts and whatever of Marcus. I think he's just simply saying, I got to be an Energizer Bunny. Like you said, we did the interview with him, Bobby, and we were talking about it. It's a little bit of reinventing yourself on the fly. I'm going to run around like freaking crazy to get myself on the floor now because that's what I need to do. But ultimately, my game is a little bit – my game's not that frenetic. Like, I'm kind of a smooth guy, and once the game slows down for me, I'm going to be doing, different sorts of things. I don't think that's his.
He could be a premier player, is that you're saying?
I don't think that's his chosen role. It's like,
Or
if you're in the NHL
player?
and you got to go fight a couple of guys to get in the lineup, great. But do you want to be a goon the rest of your life? Like, I don't think Nesmith wants to be that guy who's just that's his mark,
We all agree that Nesmith
wants to be a star. He's a scorer.
Lunch pail player.
It's unlikely that Nesmith can ever become all defense, which has been great with Smart. But do we think Smart will become all defense again? That's a question you have to ask. No. Can Nesmith fill that off-ball shooting role better than him? I think that's certainly a possibility. And can he make a little plays on the ball? That's like we've started to see signs of it.
Who's that, Nick?
That was
my boy. Man. We'll see him.
That was a distraction.
Yeah, I didn't think he'd make it to the camera. But he was.
So here's all I'm trying to describe. You draft a player like Nesmith to eventually replace a veteran on the team, to work up to a starting role, to work up to a significant role on the team. At some point, you have to kind of make a choice there. Like, who's going to be the one that you cash in on now? Maybe you get a pick for him. Maybe you get a young player that you want to build up in return for Smart. Like, I don't know if they're going to get a better player than Smart, but at some point, if you want to keep the costs under control on this roster, you have to pick and choose between some of the guys that are going to get a little more expensive into the future. The only reason I look at Smart is because this year we saw his returns diminish just a little bit, and you don't want that to keep happening the year after that, and then all of a sudden there's nothing you can do with them, and he's on a medium-sized contract but giving you low contract production. I'm just looking at ways that you can balance it.
Is it fair to gauge this season though? Like, I know we've been saying that all season long for every single NBA team, but Marcus missed a lot of games, right, Bobby? I mean, when he came back, it seemed like he seemed relentless, and it seemed like he didn't miss a step. But now we're starting to see a little bit. Maybe he's starting to feel it now.
That's what makes it complicated for Danny to know exactly what to do. Because if Marcus played a full season and played the way he has, then the decision is pretty easy. Right. But and if he missed a ton of games and played very, very little, again, I think the decision becomes easier. But the fact is somewhere in between.
Can they bring everybody back next year?
No.
Is that an option? So it's
an option, but it's a bad one.
Yeah. So I don't want to lose Fournier. If they lose Fournier, I'm going to be very upset because I think he's a perfect fit with this team.
That was you.
Sorry,
yeah, Bobby. Mad Bob's about to come out.
He's a better shooter.
I'm going to be. You don't want to see me when I'm angry.
You don't
Bobby
wanna-
might curse. Yo. You better
No,
look
but
out.
Bobby's not. Bobby's. You're gonna make Bobby sad. Okay.
He's
We
a
don't wanna
better
do
shooter.
that.
Yeah.
He's a better
Especially after
shooter.
Hayward.
He's a better shooter than Smart. He's a better scorer than Smart. I think he glues together some of these pieces at least as well. Another 8-assist game tonight. He just flows within the offense well, and you never look at him and say, "Wow, Fournier's taking crazy shots. He's doing stuff you don't want him
Right.
to do."
No, you never say that.
The issue that you're going to have, Bobby, though, is still it ignores bringing him back doesn't address what is one of the biggest problems with this team is that's their defense. Fournier is not going to. His offense will help you offensively and maybe
he's been
get
playing
better.
good defense so far.
When he checks the lane, he gambles a lot. But I'm with you, Bobby. Lately,
yeah, I mean,
when he gets a hand on it, it's great. But we've seen when he doesn't always get a hand on it. So yeah.
And even when he had I thought a really good game tonight defensively, Miami still shot damn near 60%.
Right.
So I mean, they need so many other pieces to fall into place, in addition to having guys like Fournier who can facilitate and get his shot and make things happen. They need a defensive lobotomy because right now this is garbage what they're doing.
Sherrod, but how did they get here, Sherrod? Rob Williams, Marcus Smart, like they had the defensive anchors and
but those guys have been in and out of the lineup. And after those guys are mentioned, who's next?
You know what's tough about the
Probably
Fournier thing? if they choose Smart and the others over Fournier, you're looking at a TP.
You're going to be mad.
Big mad.
Well, yes, I'm going to be mad first and foremost.
Well, yes.
Second, you're looking at like a TPE situation. You're probably going to get a 20 million TP, and we're doing that whole thing all summer again.
Yeah, get ready, guys. TPE
or
season.
you're looking at like a couple second-round picks or like a heavily protected first-round pick, and we're just like, oh, they traded Hayward for a heavily protected first-rounder. And it's just that diminishment of assets. You don't want Fournier to be a rental, and it was the risk in adding him, but I think that's why it makes it all the more important that you invest in him. And that makes a hard decision on Smart.
Yeah, I mean, as we said, if Fournier is like, nah, I'm all set, then that changes.
Well, that's the other thing. He has a say in it.
2 second-round picks.
Yeah, that changes things. So we're gonna get moving here. I want to we've opened our locker room, so Sherrod and I are gonna head out, and these guys will wrap it up. Bobby, you want to do your little switcheroo thing?
No,
here, buddy?
I'm in.
Yeah, you're in.
Yeah.
Did
you do it on Sunday? I think
one of the things I wanted to talk about, and I can take this to locker room, but I'll let you guys know. I had thrown something out there on Twitter, just a hypothetical, and I threw it out here as my little hot take nugget of the night. Who is the team at this point in time? Who are they missing more? Are they missing Jaylen Brown or Rob Williams more? Okay,
the latter.
And my take is Rob Williams only because they're that deficient there. There's no question Jaylen's the better player by miles, but Rob right now, in terms of what they're missing in a lot of different ways, especially after seeing Tristan and nothing behind him, is actually killing this team right now. I'd feel a lot better if he were in there with their chances of both a play-in win and possibly putting up some bit of a fight. I think it's murdering them. That's my take. You guys might hate it. That's fine. We can talk about it on Locker Room. Head over there, download it. We've got Android working now. We've got plenty of people with Androids who have joined us there. So do it. And we're going to head over now. Talk about Brad, what you guys think. Bobby thinks Brad's going to take a year off to play ball with his kids. He can explain that after we leave.
He can explain that one. Brad's going on sabbatical.
We're not kidding either.
We'll keep that one in the group chat.
That's the funny part.
Josue, where were you on that, man?
Listen,
he was lucky to be ignoring it.
The group chat's not right to air. That's just a testing ground for ideas.
No,
you'll be shocked by
50-50
how many of them still reach this show, even though we shoot most of them down.
John uses his own discretion on that one.
Oh yeah, I use those. Yeah, Jimmy knows. But anyway, so we're gonna head over. You guys wrap it up. Come join us, guys. Locker room. It's gonna be fun. We want to hear from you. Room is filling up already, guys. Give it a few minutes and then come on over and we'll all hang out there. So I'm taking off.
All right, fellas.
All right.
I'll see you guys soon when I'm in this Uber ride home. Shit, what time is it?
All right, so I guess
getting
we have
late.
to talk about his Rob Jaylen thing.
Yo, I'm with him.
You are?
You don't
All
have
right.
to talk about it.
It's a good hot take.
Do your own thing. Do your own
He's
thing.
back.
I just
good-
threw it out there.
it's a
I
good
was
hot
asking-
take.
We'll talk
Who needs
about
to
it.
leave the locker room? Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
we'll rip on you for a minute. Just don't come back. Just stay off the show. You're
You
off.
never
now.
know, right? I could pop in any time. I'm right here. It's
You're
just a
pulling a
button
Nick.
away.
This is what Nick did on Sunday.
Yeah,
He
this
kept
is the
coming
Nick
back
move.
after he left.
If I don't like something, I'll jump back in. All right, I mean it. Bye.
It's all right. I mean it.
No, I get what he's saying, Josue. Jalen's your second best player. He's 20, 30 points every single night. He's a secondary attacker there. Again, I said it, he was the MVP of this team this year. And there were times he lapsed defensively. I don't think he was going to fix the defense tonight, but he was going to give you another 25, 20 points. So you would have been right there, at least able to hang shot for shot offensively with Miami tonight.
It's tough. I mean,
Jimmy-
obviously,
John-
I
now
understand
Jimmy's
what
torn.
John's. I know
Now
what John's
Jimmy's
saying
torn.
too. I mean, it's obvious that like, yeah, Tristan Thompson's not cutting it, and they just don't have the depth at that position. They haven't had the depth. Haven't had that depth in like 10 years. It feels like we're always talking about a lack of depth at the center position. So I understand what he's saying, but it's hard to make the case that Rob would have the same
So here's
impact
the
as Jaylen
question.
Brown, at least as good Jaylen Brown. The problem is we get some days Jaylen Brown is Bobby's MVP, and other days he's standing on the sidelines
All right,
wondering
but
why
what if
he's
it's
not being.
what if it's
involved.
March Rob Williams, right?
Yeah.
March Rob Williams was a savage.
I know.
What
he's a
was it?
beast.
10 and 10, 3 blocks a
He
night.
ran this show for
The
like
entire
2 months.
month he did that.
Does
Well, he
Rob-
missed a few games, but for the most part of March, he did that.
Does Rob significantly raise the defensive ceiling of the team is the question you got to ask there. For stretches, he did.
Well, again,
He
that's
helps,
why I'm
definitely.
talking about March Rob, because I think if
Yeah.
you're talking about March Rob, you got a legitimate argument there.
They
but
were playing
obviously-
great defense then.
Obviously, you still lose a lot of scoring power, but I mean, I just think his energy is somewhat contagious when he's healthy, right? Like we knew he wasn't healthy, like before they actually started taking him out of game, because you could just see it. Like the energy wasn't the same, but when he was himself, I honestly, on both ends of the floor, I think it resonates with his teammates, and I think, in this situation, maybe you win a few more playoff games. I'm not quite sure it's going to put you in a space to win a whole playoff series, whereas Jaylen Brown probably going to help you win a playoff series, but you change the way you play in a sense, though, right? What do
You
guys
need
think?
both. You need both,
You do
really,
need both.
because
Realistically, you
Rob's-
need both. Yeah, to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, you need both.
Jalen's a ceiling raiser. Rob's doing little things that you need, and the little things always matter. Again, we've talked about how the Celtics have almost ignored little things when it comes to how they're putting this roster together. Where's your passing specialist? Where's your defender off the bench? Where's your veteran off the bench, the veteran presence? Rob, fortunately for them, filled the passing help that they needed, was a vertical spacer, so he helped make other guys better. From what John's saying, did anyone make their teammates better this year than Rob did? Like he always helped guys when he was on the court. That almost was his intention when he came out.
His offense was so underrated because it's not about him putting the ball through the hoop. It's just whether it's the passing or whether just his mere presence of having someone to lob the ball, into the paint and create, because he would, double teams come around him or just he has the skill set to pass that ball out, and he's a good passer for a big man. He certainly improved that part of his game, and you saw how much it impacted the offense overall.
He can come back still too. Like, it's turf toe. Like, give him that week. He'll probably feel a little bit better. I don't think he'll be 100%, but he could be ready for that playing game. And it's just how much of an impact does that make upon return?
Yeah.
I think it
like
would
what
make
Brad said. He's game time decisions every single game at this point.
Yeah, I think it would make a huge impact. I mean, he was a great passing big. I mean, he opens things up. He runs the floor. He gets guys going. Like they can sort of work the ball through him on the offensive side. There, has a really good connection. He had a really good connection with Tatum going for a while,
right.
And he just kind of makes them younger out there. And obviously, we know what he can do athletically more than anybody else on the team, and probably most of the league. The way he can get up and block shots and rip down.
We don't even
boards.
talk about that enough. The lob, the constant threat of an alley-oop can really rattle a defense. We saw that, especially those 500 teams like the Celtics.
That poster, remember the poster they put out there, Josue, advertising the show with Max. Now look what they're doing with your name.
Oh yeah.
What do you mean?
Oh, the chat.
John,
chat.
Jimmy, Bobby,
Boo.
And Juice. Call him Juice, man.
I didn't see it on the screen, but I saw it in the chat, and honestly, I didn't even notice. He was misspelled.
Juice.
Yo, that's your Rod one. I honestly, Bobby, when you sent the text, I was just like, "What's wrong with that?" I thought you were talking about the pick. I'm like, "What's wrong with the pick?" And then I was like, "Oh wow, they spelled my name wrong." They spelled my
that
name
was
wrong.
me. I was like, I can't
Oh
believe
no, you said that. Yeah,
I was like, I can't believe they did Joe Sway like
they
that.
did him
man.
dirty or something like that. And I was like, "What do you mean?"
Either Juice or House.
But you were the second comment, and if you didn't say that, I wouldn't have double checked the way I did. That's when I caught it. I was like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
Yeah, we're great with the posters.
Bobby, you keep saying that
Jaylen's
your MVP, and you're like adamant about it. I just find it so difficult. It's so hard for me to even name an MVP.
No, yeah,
on this
you just kind of have to do it. You know,
I just
I guess
I don't even want to give it to him. I don't even know who I get.
so.
I'll tell you what.
They're such an AAU team, man.
I'll tell you what. I'm like
the guys put
I'm like
together.
somewhat close to giving it to Kemba Walker. That's
Look at Bobby's face.
You can't do that.
I can't. I can't because he did struggle for a stretch and obviously he missed time. But the way he's sort of come on in the second half of the season, he's to me been like their most consistent guy, and he's been the guy that I think has like stepped up.
But
and,
availability
like,
matters
led.
a lot for MVP.
Yeah, I know, but sometimes these guys are available physically, but they're not so much available.
Right, so
mentally.
let's be real with what Jaylen did this year. He wasn't in a frontline position, so a lot of times he wasn't even dictating the outcomes of these games. But he came into this year massively better than he was last year, carried the team through the early missing time there, raised his game as a passer, and frankly, at times that he struggled, he just seemed to be banged up. I think that he just kind of wore down.
I think you got to give it to him. It's just hard for me to because the same player you're giving the MVP to is the same player that people are criticizing left and right, along with Tatum, because of the way that they've, sort of led the team or not led the team this year for whatever reasons you want to give. Obviously, they've improved, and I mean, I'm not saying that Kemba Walker is more valuable than Jaylen Brown is, but it's just hard for me to just be like, oh yeah, he's the MVP. But it's more of an indictment on the team that this is how we're wrestling with that award, because it's just hard to feel like there even is one, I guess, the way it's gone this year. And the way it's
like this team doesn't deserve an MVP.
Right. Like there's not really been a valuable
I guess sometimes
what were we talking about the other day? Like which one of these players make their team better or make the teammates better? Like that shouldn't be a question. Like it should be at least two names that automatically come to mind. And we don't have that. Like it just hasn't been the case.
Right.
Rob we discovered that probably Rob is that guy who's made everyone better or people better.
I got one more question before we get out of here, and this goes back to something else we talked about on the show tonight. Neesmith getting 0 shots as he continues to develop, as he shows signs. We had A. Sherrod had his coach Stackhouse on the podcast, who said that he sees all-star potential for Neesmith. So the leaders of this team are going to have to, cradle that potential, bring it to reality, allow him to be his best self. And time out this year, we don't see them connecting with him. We don't see them empowering him to have better games. We see him kind of floating. And he's done a better job inserting himself and making himself present in these games. But for a guy like him, a catch-and-shoot player, the leaders of the team have to find him. And for 14 minutes tonight, he didn't even get a shot. Edwards, same thing. Brad inserts him in there 2 games in a row with an idea of what they want him to do, what they want him to accomplish, and they don't get him the ball at all. Why is there that divide between the veterans and the young guys on this team? Is it a trust factor? Is it the young guys not being in the right place? Is it them thinking that they need to save the team when they're down by double digits? I don't get it.
I think, honestly, it's a case-by-case basis. I mean, I think not just because he's a rookie, but going up against a team like the Miami Heat, a team that knocked you out of the playoffs, the one that stood in your way from getting to the NBA Finals. I mean, it's guys like Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum. I mean, they're just going to step up and naturally off of that alone, off of Jaylen Brown just finding out that he's going to be out for the entire year. And I just think national televised game, everyone was just sort of in it. I mean, Fournier is another veteran, He hasn't played on national TV that many times throughout his career. I mean, not to say that it's about exposure or anything like that, but I just think naturally veterans they have that knack to just take matters into their own hands. And I think we saw a little bit of that in a really, really good way in that first half. But, Miami Heat woke up, and then in that situation, especially in that third quarter when they really started getting going from deep, I thought Nesmith could have helped, a little bit here and there. But again, it's a tough spot to be in as a rookie. And we've talked about it. We've joked about it. We've seen, we've seen Jason Tatum just look at him and say, nope, I'll do it myself, while he's being double teamed. I mean, that's just sort of the rookie treatment, and especially with someone like that who's just now starting to crack this rotation. And I don't know if that's necessarily by design or if that's just by necessity at this point.
Think of this comment here. How true is this? Butler won't even shoot some games to get those guys going. Can you ever imagine Tatum and Brown doing that?
It's wild, man. It's honestly again, watching this team, I'm like, look out. Don't sleep on this Miami Heat team. Last year wasn't just a Cinderella season for these guys. I do think they're a legitimate threat in the playoffs. These are the weapons. This is the ideal sort of second unit you want to have. It's not just about scoring, but it's about guys who instill confidence in each other and go out there, and they don't care who's on the other end. They're going to give you all they got. We just never see that on a consistent level from this team.
Well, that's a great comment by C. Smith, because
it is.
If they're not scoring, if Tatum and Brown aren't scoring this season, I'm talking about, they haven't really been able to give you much else in any other facet of the game. The defense has slipped this year. I would say, I guess passing's been okay, but for the most part, no. It's if Tatum's not giving you 35, then you're losing that game, because there's not enough that they're able to do on the other side of the ball. Butler, like you said, he doesn't even have to shoot, and he can affect the game in so many different ways based on the way he plays defense, his attitude, his intensity, getting other guys involved. And yes, that's true that he might have better teammates to get involved than maybe Brown and Tatum do this year, but that wasn't always the case. I mean, Duncan Robinson wasn't always the player that he was, and Tyler Herro was a rookie last year, and there are other players on the team that he's gotten involved. So I do think that that's something that Tatum and Brown need to focus on, is what can they do, not just to better their own selves individually, but to better the guys that are out there playing with them. And that's how you're going to start translating to wins.
Off-season workouts, getting to the point where you're annoying. We talked about this a couple of days ago, and I laughed it off. You honestly, realistically think that either one of those guys have that in them? I don't. I'll be honest. Yeah. You think Tatum's going to call up half the team during the offseason and say, let's go? Well, from the golf course? Look, I'm not saying that he doesn't have it in him, but right now I haven't seen it. So why do I think he's just going to wake up one day and say, oh, you know what? I'm just going to be over-the-top leader, I'm just going to be an over-the-top leader who's almost obnoxious because this is who I want to be all of a sudden. I don't think it works like that. I think it's much more gradual.
I think that's so important this offseason. We think about what everyone needs to do. That ultimately is very high on the list, because that's what's confusing about this team this year, isn't it? We came in and said, all right, not a great roster, but at the very least, we've seen Brad do this before with young talent. We've seen Brad do this with teams that don't have the best rosters in the world. He'll build guys up. Nesmith will have a nice year. Pritchard, right from the start, did well, but you didn't see Grant progress. You didn't see a bunch of the young guys progress, really. And how much of that was Brad? How much of that was the guys that were leading this team on the court? I think it probably had more to do with Tatum, Brown. When you look at their culpability for what happened with this team, that's the biggest thing they did wrong. They looked at it as, we need to save this team night in and night out, rather than rely and empower other guys. Look, you would have been fine with this team losing some games if you saw some progress through it all. If Grant had some good games, if Nesmith was making progress, if the young guys were getting involved and they were just losing competitive games, you feel fine about the process over results. But they've been losing games and they haven't been building anything, which is what's frustrating.
Especially Grant, man. You heard me from the very first month of the season. I'm like, what happened?
You said his name.
He took a step back. Oh, did we? Oh, man.
And back to what Sherrod said.
You guys went the whole night without it? Oh.
Sherrod says, bring in some veterans. Replace the guys off the bench with veterans. They're probably not going to do that. They're going to say, these young guys are cheap. We're going to keep developing them. Well, you actually have to develop them. You can't do it through Maine. You can't use that excuse, because they're ready to play in the NBA. They just need to have their NBA level raised. And that comes down to the leaders on the team. And this is kind of what Kyrie did. It kind of is.
What do you mean?
Kyrie looked at it and said, I got to save this myself in 2019. You know, they never built that connection with Brown and Tatum to allow them to help and empower them to contribute to that series that they ultimately lost. And they can't make the same mistake.
No. All right, let's get out of here.
All right, we're on the locker room. We are back tomorrow night for more Celtics basketball.
Back to back. Where's my Uber at?
Two more back-to-backs
Will we
before
have
the season
any
ends.
more shows after a win this season? That's what I honestly wonder.
So for the people that want
fall
to
asleep tomorrow night during the locker room.
If the people who wanted a tank want to see that happen naturally, tomorrow's the key. That the Cavs have lost more than 10 straight at this point, 11, I think.
Oof.
So if you get through that one with a loss, you're probably going to lose to Minnesota and New York to cap out the weekend as well. So that would be a straight natural tank into that playing game.
Straight natural tank.
Tanker's paradise.
An organic tank. Yep.
I can't believe they cannot lose to the Cavs. I don't know. Who knows? We wouldn't be stunned.
Yeah,
Anything is
honestly,
possible.
weird things happen over there. Seriously.
All right, on
Carson
to
Edwards,
Cleveland.
Gordon Hayward. Just a weird place, man.
See ya.
We'll see you on Locker Room. Bye, guys.